Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Nerd Herders. I'm Nick.
I'm Rich.
And today we have a special James Bond themed episode for you.
Yep.
So for today's purposes, I'll be 006.
I'll be not 007.
Alex Trevelyan. I'm Sean Bean. Alright, so we have seen Spectre, the long-awaited return of Daniel Craig as James Bond, potentially the final Daniel Craig.
Yeah. Last he spoke, he would rather slit his wrists than.
Well, he's
do it
had
again.
conflicting reports now, of course.
Yeah.
We'll talk about if we want more Daniel Craig and stuff. We'll talk about what we've thought of the Daniel Craig era as a whole, and just what we think about James Bond in general. But before we do any of that, you've seen Spectre, I've seen Spectre. I have no idea what you thought of the film. You don't know what I thought of it.
Nope.
So
no idea.
let's just get into it. Did you like Spectre? Okay.
It's okay.
All right. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you later.
Yeah, end of discussion. I think it's got some good moments in it. I think Christoph Waltz is... first of all, this will be... Are we keeping this spoiler free or are we keeping this with spoilers?
How about we'll have a spoiler section at the end.
Okay.
Right.
I think it's a little bloated. It doesn't need to be nearly as long as it is for its plot. Christoph Waltz is very underused. But yeah, I mean, it's got some fun things in it. It's just it doesn't do anything all that different, which I guess some could see as a good or a bad thing. But I think it has a lot of the same problems that Skyfall had, or that I had with Skyfall. Anyways, I wasn't the biggest fan of that one either.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I'll start off by saying I think I'm a little bit higher on this movie than you are.
Okay.
Actually, if I were to... I just rewatched Skyfall again the day before I saw Spectre. First time I'd actually watched it since the theater.
Mm-hmm.
I would say for me, if I were to rate the Daniel Craig Bond films, I would put... For me, actually, and I know this is maybe a controversial statement, Skyfall is the worst of them to me.
Okay.
I would put definitely Spectre ahead of that, if not even slightly ahead of Quantum. The thing about this movie, without getting into spoilers, is I think Spectre is almost like a remake of Quantum of Solace, where it is all set up of the secret organization that they might use in future films, and it might become an actual remake of Quantum of Solace because of Daniel Craig. They never finished that storyline. They never followed through on the Quantum organization because people didn't like that movie. It didn't make very much money comparatively to Bond films, and so they kind of scrapped it and just went and did Skyfall. Now they really clearly want to have an organization, and now if Daniel Craig leaves, you have to wonder if they would even continue it.
That's
again.
true.
We'll see. You talked about it at the top, but Daniel Craig made some very public comment about how he'd rather slit his wrist than return to the role, right?
Yeah.
But then
right away, anyway, he was like, jumping right in.
He actually, after Skyfall, had made comments saying that he could never imagine coming back also, and he clearly did. But even last week, he backpedaled on his original statement and said he couldn't see himself doing it again. Immediately, does he think he'll do it again? Yes. He actually said he thinks he'll do it again. The one of the producers, made some comment saying he's pretty sure they have Daniel Craig back.
Yeah, I saw some headline about that. I didn't read the article.
So, my guess is I could see him coming back. Again, without getting into spoilers, I don't think Sam Mendes will be back as director. He made some comments about how he thinks he's done. He said that after Skyfall 2, but he made some comments about how this fulfilled a journey for him.
Okay.
I would love to know what journey it fulfilled because it really is set up for future
films.
It's not a contained storyline. It isn't.
No.
It is set up for what would come next. So what journey does that fulfill? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe his journey of always wanted to make a sequel. He couldn't make American Beauty 2, so he went and did this. I would love to know what he thinks he completed. I think it is. It's almost like half a film, half a very long film. There are things about it that I really like. I actually thought Léa Seydoux, or however you say her name, was a good Bond girl.
She's really good in it.
I agree that Christoph Waltz is underused, but I think that we'll talk more about his character in spoilers.
Okay.
But to me, he does a variation of what he did in like Inglourious Bastards, basically. And I don't know if we talked about it in this or I've talked about it on my old show. When he was cast, a lot of people got really excited about Christoph Waltz being cast because he's amazing in Inglourious Bastards, he's amazing in Django. But to me, Christoph Waltz, that wasn't exciting because to me he is only an actor that is good when he's working with Tarantino. When he has branched off and done other things, I've never been impressed. I really haven't. I think he's only good with Tarantino, I really do. Or only memorable. Like, look at his villain turn in, like, Green Hornet. Like what? That was his big thing after Inglourious Bastards, his big, like, Hollywood villain role. And in my eyes, he basically did it again in this.
Well, I'm trying to remember where else I saw him.
It's
in,
like giving a performance like what he tried to do before, but without having Tarantino dialogue to come out of his mouth. It's just not as interesting.
That's fair.
And I would say that it's very much like that in this. You know, there are some other things. The end of Skyfall kind of set it up where like we finally reached the point where James Bond is James Bond. We fully have Q and Moneypenny.
Yeah, everything is set up to sort of bring us back into just kind of being able to have typical James, you know.
And I don't think that's what we got here.
No.
I wouldn't say that's what we got here at all. In fact, it has like less Q gadgets than even. It
has less of everything.
While also being very long.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say, well, before we move into spoilers on it or whatever, I think Dave Bautista was pretty awesome as Mr. Hinks or whatever his name is, the henchman. There's a great moment with him on a train, and part of it has a clear, in my eyes, it was a clear callback to Jaws, but not the Bond villain Jaws, the actual shark. I don't know if you caught what I'm talking about, but I thought that the part with him on the train I actually thought was really cool.
Up until like that weird like ADR line.
Yeah, right, that was it. But obviously a train fight in a Bond movie, you have to think back to From Russia with Love. I think it was, you know, one of the best Bond films, and I think that it, you know, came close to at least being as memorable as that. And also the opening, I thought.
Yeah, the opening was great. It's this long tracking shot. It's really well done. And I'd heard kind of going in, a lot of people were kind of down on this. And it starts off with this tracking shot. I'm like, wow, I don't know, this is great. And it has this kind of big, you know, moment in it, like this, you know, big chase and all this stuff. And I'm like, cool. And then it just kind of doesn't do anything for about an hour and a half.
It's in the trailers, so I don't think it's a spoiler to say that the movie suggests that the Spectre organization, that is the title of the film, has secretly been behind everything that's happened in the previous Craig movies, from Silva to the events of Casino Royale with Le Sharif, and also the whole Quantum organization. I didn't necessarily buy that. They didn't offer anything in it to.
No, Spectre or Waltz never felt as big or as menacing as they needed to be.
I could see on one hand how the Spectre organization could have led Silva, the villain from Skyfall, the Javier Bardem character, to attack MI6, but I don't. That movie, part of what makes that villain work, is that it is so personal for him with M, that to say that they were actually behind that kind of takes away from that in a way. So I don't know if I was cool with that at all. It actually, and to suggest that like Spectre had a hand in the whole Vesper Lind thing, you know, the Eva Green character that Bond fell in love with at Casino Royale, and her turning and making sure that she was killed, and like, did they? Like, they don't offer any type of at all evidence. It's almost like there's the line that you hear in the trailer of Christoph Waltz saying, "I'm the architect of all of your
all your pain,
or something like that." Like, it was just like too good of a line not to have him say, even though you can't really back it up.
Yeah,
almost. And he does deliver it well, and it is a memorable line. I don't know. It was fine. You want to see, now that this has ended, the way that it ends, without spoiling it, it's definitely set up. Do you want to see at least one more Daniel Craig?
I want to see another Craig movie. I don't want to see another Sam Mendes movie. like I said before, I don't care. I'm not a huge fan of this one. I wasn't a huge fan of Skyfall. I really like Daniel Craig as Bond. I think he does a really good job as James Bond. I wish they would have continued the tradition of having a new director kind of step in, what they've been doing recently and see what they do with it.
Yeah, it has this weird kind of imbalance of, like we said at the end, I do want to see another one. Definitely, I want to see this story played out. But the movie has this weird imbalance of like tone almost sometimes, where like it's still very serious in the vein of like a Skyfall, but then it will like have these like sort of goofy like
it's really
almost Roger Moore
and
Bond stuff, like in that beginning when like he falls through the building and he lands on a couch and he's like, huh. And it's just like.
And I feel like every few lines is always like a quip or like a snappy little like, which I mean they have those, but it just it plays kind of to the imbalance of.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily. It was just some of the action beats that it would hit, and even like there's a very key moment at a point in the film that you'll know when Bond gets into a classic car and the James Bond music swells, and it's like, did we just earn that moment? Like. You kind of did that with Skyfall.
It's kind of like this is a Bond movie, so we got to put this in here. So here you go. Here's some fan service. Hey, why not? Like doesn't have that build up, that progression of like, yes, we've hit that moment. It's just sort of
where a lot of it with Skyfall felt earned, but also honoring the nostalgia of the films. It was the 50th anniversary, the year that Skyfall came out. It all kind of felt like organic in the storyline, and in this one, it does sort of feel like fan service for the sake of fan service at some moments. But I do like Daniel Craig as Bond. There is a lot to appreciate in this movie, the way that it was made for sure, the way that some of the action is staged, and some of the other performances. But again, if we don't get the payoff, it really will be another Quantum. It will be another movie where it's just like that never went anywhere. And part of what used to make Bond so great was that there was never this. Yes, you had the same actor from movie to movie for long periods of time,
but there was no.
There were sets. There were contained stories. There was a beginning, a middle, and an end, and we hadn't gotten that very much.
Well, that's I actually like Quantum of Solace a lot. That's part of what made Quantum so cool. Is like it was like the first one that I remember. I mean, there might be something that had a continuing through line, but it was very much a follow up to Casino Royale. I'm like, oh, that's kind of a cool, and it was
And in many ways, this is a follow up to Skyfall, while also
trying
not being.
Yeah.
But it sort of tries to do both, and it only does both maybe half successfully.
Yeah.
I still would recommend this movie, definitely. If you're a fan of the franchise, I think that you will like it. It will hopefully be a meaningful film.
Yeah.
Like the next movie really has a real powerful chance of being that like real sequel. Let's see if we get it. I don't know. So why don't we move into spoilers real quick. So before we do, why don't we just do what we normally do at the end right now.
Okay.
We thank you for watching the
Yeah,
episode.
we are going to get into spoilers, so if you haven't watched it, thank you for watching. You can find us on Twitter. I'm at Rich Belson.
I'm at Stonks.
The channel is on Twitter at oabeer_official. You can also email us at overabeerofficial@gmail.com. Like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel. We need 100 subscribers to have our own custom YouTube URL. So as soon as we hit that, we will actually be giving you a YouTube URL as well. But we need your help to do it. But yeah, that's it for my spiel.
Yeah, so stay tuned. We're going to talk more about exact specifics of the movie. I'm also going to put you on the spot and find out what your favorite Bond actor is. So stay tuned for that. But all right, let's talk about it. 3, 2, 1. All right, so they said time and time again over the process of this movie coming out, over Christoph Waltz being cast, that he was not going to play Blofeld. That he was not going to play Blofeld. He's not Blofeld. He's not Blofeld. And then he was Blofeld. But I didn't feel as lied to as I did with Benedict Cumberbatch in Into Darkness.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. I had a friend who I immediately called and we talked after seeing the movie, and he's like, they fucking conned us. And I was like, not really. Like, I didn't feel, there's that moment in Into Darkness, and sorry, spoilers for that movie. It should have always been out there. when they make such a huge deal about him going, "My name is Khan."
Yeah.
And it's so, just in that movie, it makes no sense to me to have that moment, because that means nothing to anyone
No.
in the movie at all. It means nothing to anyone. That's literally a moment that takes you out of the movie. And in this one, they don't really play it that way. They play it like, for those who know who Blofeld is in the history of Bond movies, and if you don't, he was the head of Spectre, the organization, and he is in like 4 or 5 Bond movies. He was the inspiration for Dr. Evil. But in this movie, he's just sort of like, I don't go by that name anymore. The Oberhauser, or whatever his name is, I go by Blofeld. That was my mother's maiden name. And it's not really like, my name is now Blofeld, and he looks at the camera and cackles and he says, "Give me $1 million with this cat." That's not what they do. So it wasn't as cheap to me, but I liked the way that, you know, Blofeld, of course, famously has the scar and stuff that they also parodied with Dr. Evil. I liked the way that they had him get that, and I thought he looked really cool once he had it. And I think that he obviously has, in this movie they set up, and it's really underdeveloped, that him and Bond had a past. Like, it's super underdeveloped, right?
It was like, wait a second, so they have it? Yeah, okay.
So
he
has something of a personal vendetta against Bond for some reason, because his dad liked him. But now you also have the personal vendetta because he scarred him, that would continue on, I'm assuming, in the sequel. And I think that Christoph Waltz now, if given the chance to fully be Blofeld, to be the menacing Bond villain with the noticeable scar, the memorable scar, I think that he could really chew some scenery in a follow-up film. And that's why, part of why I do want to see a direct sequel to this movie.
Okay.
But what did you think of the Blofeld reveal?
I don't remember any of them actually saying he's not going to play Blofeld.
Oh, okay. So it was a big thing. It was.
So I don't recall that. I haven't followed the development of it super close. So I was just like, okay. Like it wasn't a shock, and it wasn't a.
It didn't come as a shock to me. Like, there was a certain point in, when he was cast and knew it was Spectre. Me and some of my friends, like, I'm a huge Bond fan. Should just say, like, I've always loved the franchise. Had all the DVDs and VHS tapes, and TNT or TBS, one of the two, used to do James Bond marathons all the time. I don't think they really do that anymore, but I would watch all the movies as a kid. And so as soon as they cast Christoph Waltz, it was like, oh, Blofeld, done. And then they kept saying that he wasn't him, and I didn't really dwell on it that much, to the point where I wasn't surprised when it was him. It was always in the back of my mind that it could be, but I'm totally okay with it. It's gonna be really lame if they do a new Bond and they don't continue this.
Yeah.
And honestly, let's talk about a scenario where Daniel Craig doesn't come back.
Okay.
They bring in Tom Hiddleston or whoever to play Bond. I feel like before it was fine that a new actor comes in and it's just a new movie. They did do there have been examples in the past where the same actor played, like, Felix Leiter from movie to movie, even though it was a different Bond. And they obviously did the famous thing where Judi Dench played M all the way from GoldenEye through Pierce Brosnan's run, and then she was still M with Daniel Craig. But I feel like now it would be really weird if another actor stepped in and it was supposed to be a continuation.
Well, because now they're so, if it is because the other ones, they were never really continuation, but now it really is.
Yeah, I mean, if another actor came in, Christoph Waltz is still Blofeld, you still have Ralph Fiennes as M, and Naomi Harris as Moneypenny, and Rory Kinnear as whatever the hell he plays in all the movies. He's in every movie. I don't know what his name is. And Ben Whishaw is cute. Like, that would be really weird to me. I don't know if I would want that. But I also don't know if I want them to just say he does leave after even if he comes back for one more. Like, do we really want to see them reboot it again, or just have it just be like a Bond movie and there's a new M and there's a new, like, what do you want? Like, do you want like another? Because it's not like you watch Dr. No, the very first Bond movie. There's not some like setup of this is who James Bond going through training and he becomes Bond. He's just Bond. Like, from the first movie, he's just Bond. Nobody knew what that meant. I think I'd rather have that.
I agree.
We got the origin story, and it took 2.75 of the movie for him to become Bond.
Well, that's what I was so excited about. The promise of what would eventually be Spectre is now we're going to see. We're done with Orange. We're done with building him up. He is the Bond character that we have known and loved for years. And then right off the bat, it's the whole you're off the force. You're taking it too far. You're done. You're out. And why? Why can't he?
I was really surprised when it opened that way. Definitely. And I was surprised that it did feel like they did try and retread a lot of what they'd already done with the character.
Mm-hmm.
Part of what makes Bond, and in 2015 it might not be cool, but he is like a womanizer, and they set up that he was a guy who was capable of love with Vesper Lynd, and then she kind of betrays him and she dies, and then he becomes this cold person who he says that bitch is dead or whatever he says at the end of Casino Royale, and that's when he becomes this guy who doesn't care about that type of thing anymore. But then they sort of open that up again with Lea Seydoux in this movie. And then you have to imagine, at some point she's going to die and he's just going to go through that motion again. And they already did the thing where he leaves MI6 and they did it again. And it was retracing a lot of those character beats. Mm-hmm. And part of it might stem from, this movie had 4 credited screenwriters. It had John Logan, and then his script was rewritten by Purvis and Wade, who have worked on Bond movies since The World Is Not Enough. And then it was another 4th guy. That's problematic.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I don't want to see Sam Mendes back. I didn't actually want to see him back for this one.
I didn't either.
I thought that he did some good things with Skyfall, and I think that the problems with Skyfall that I have are not on him. For me, the biggest problem, even rewatching it again, is just it has a 3rd act that I think is absurd and stupid. It becomes Home Alone.
Yeah.
Home Alone with old people. It's like Bond and old people running through caves.
One of my problems with Skyfall 2 was that it did not need to be as long as it was for the plot that it has. It's the same problem I have with this one, and I don't know if that's
And at least that one told a story.
Yeah.
Right from beginning. There is a through line with that, with everything with M, and then it actually has a definitive arc for Silva.
Mm-hmm.
This one is just set up, and it's the longest Bond movie that's ever been made.
Yeah.
That is a problem. But for me, one of the great things about Sam Mendes as a director is every single movie he's ever made has been so radically different from any other movie he's ever made. You look from American Beauty, his first movie, and then he did Road to Perdition, and he did Jarhead and Revolutionary Road, and Away We Go. Down the line, it was so different. And I love that about him, because most directors stay kind of in a niche. And then he made a Bond movie, and that was totally out of nowhere. And then he made another Bond movie. He'd never done that. Yeah. You have to imagine that there was part of it that wasn't as exciting for him, and it sort of was a paycheck.
Yeah.
And you kind of feel that. But, any other closing thoughts on Spectre?
No, that's it. Oh, I hate that song. I had not heard the song. I have not heard the song until the movie.
I first listened to it. We were at work, and I listened to it, and I was like, it's a bad song.
I hadn't heard it. I avoided it up until the movie, and I saw it in that movie, and I hate it. It is terrible.
The thing is, I hated it so much listening to that song, just with no context. Mm-hmm. Totally, just listening to it with headphones on. It plays, I'll tell you this, it plays way worse by itself than it does over the credits.
Oh,
it's
sure.
Still not good. I don't really like it, but it did feel more of a Bond song, even if it was one of those Bond themes that I don't prefer. It did feel like when I was watching it with the credits and everything that's going on, and they're showing, the old villains and everything, I felt that was at least, it felt natural.
Yeah, that's fair. It I'll give it that. It fit well kind of with what they had playing with it.
And they kind of reuse some of the overture of that song throughout the movie, and that works okay. Mm-hmm. But it is a bad song. I think anything was going to be a letdown following the Adele song. People can say what they want about that. It's not something that I would normally listen to, but it is a great Bond song, the Skyfall song. It's everything that you would look for in a Bond theme. And I say that as somebody who would never just listen to Bond themes. I'm not, that's not really what I do. But, yeah, it's a movie.
Yeah.
So, favorite Bond actor?
Connery.
Okay.
You?
I grew up on Brosnan. He was my Bond.
Mm-hmm.
But it really has become. I think Daniel Craig has done more with the character as being a character
Yeah.
than anybody else has ever done.
That's fair.
But there's things about all of them that I love. I mean, even Timothy Dalton. There are things about License to Kill and The Living Daylights that I really dig. So, but I'll go with Daniel Craig.
Cool.
All right. So who's your favorite Bond? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
And we already did the rest of it. So let us know what you thought of Spectre. Did you think it was the best one, the worst one? Why were we wrong?
Somewhere in between.
Yeah. Otherwise, that's it for today. So
Yeah. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.